All right, the new workshop has exactly one outlet in this entire place. It's basically an unfinished basement at the new house. So, but I think I can get this video done anyway. Finally, thought I was ready for some two-player TurboGrafx 16 when Old Skool made this control pad. It also says for PC Engine, but the stock connector is the full-size DIN, and it comes with an adapter cable for the PC Engine and the Duos. And yeah, it's part of their Pro Gamer series, even though I don't know of any professional gaming that's done on TurboGrafx or PC Engine other than speedrunning. So yeah, maybe it's for speedrunners. We'll see. Haven't tried it out yet, haven't even unboxed it. So I guess we'll do that on video since I haven't seen anyone else talk about this or discuss it. But this is really about something else. Like I said, I thought I was ready for some two-player gaming on TurboGrafx. But turns out that there's something wrong with my multitap. And I don't mean this broken off DIN here. And actually, one of those consoles back there had a broken off DIN in it too, so it looks like that's something to be careful and make sure nobody wrenches the controller port out of your system. And actually, the way it protrudes from your system, that's pretty likely to happen. It sticks out awkwardly far, and it's of course big and rigid, and so you can get some leverage on there unintentionally and just break it off. So be very careful about that. But you know, luckily now we have replacement controllers, so if you do break it, it's not the end of the world. And might have some other controller solutions I'll be talking about in a future video. I'm working on them, getting some PCBs made, and I'll demonstrate those. But in this case, well, first, let me show you that the multitap mostly works. This game can detect whether or not you have a multitap installed. Street Fighter II Apostrophe Champion Edition. See, the apostrophe is part of the name for TurboGrafx. Well, this one was officially never released on TurboGrafx. It was a PC Engine game. Anyway, see, versus battle is grayed out until now the multitap is plugged in. The controller's plugged into the multitap. Okay, it thinks I have a 6-button controller when I don't. And see, the reset, select and run is supposed to reset the game, but it isn't. That's because there's a bad connection here. When I lift it up, you can see that it goes back to detecting a 3-button controller for a moment. It's very touchy. See, now I can reset it. And you'll see that the versus mode is no longer grayed out. Yeah, see, now versus battle's there, and I can pick it. Alright, so it works until I let go, and then it spazzes out and thinks I picked something when I didn't. Alright, so let's see if I can fix it. Hopefully it's just a broken solder joint on there, which I suspect it is, because I've seen that before. On the systems, not on the taps, but it's my first tap. All right. See if I can show the camera. Oops. Yeah. You can see those connections are wiggling down there when I wiggle the port. A couple of them are. I don't know if the camera shows that actually. But yeah, I can definitely see it moving. So, let me try reflowing it. Let me see if any of the others do it. Yeah, you know, I see this one, oops, shadow, this one right here moves. See, well, if it shows up on camera, I don't know. But yeah, it definitely needs to be reflowed if the trace isn't outright broken. If it is, then it'll need to be jumpered, but hopefully just reflowed. So let's try that first. Not that it needs that, but let's see. Since There's obviously flux in the solder. This is RA flux solder. I don't want to use that because then I have to clean it off with alcohol, and I might get lazy this time since it'll all be buttoned up at the end of this video. And who knows how long it'll take me to get back in there and clean it up. All right. Took a while. Checking that. All right, so everything has solder added. Make sure there's no bridges. No bridges. All right, so let's see if that did the trick. And it's working without me tweaking it. Let's see if that changes by tweaking it. Go to options. No, it seems to be pretty good. Try the second player. All right, it's in. Tweaking it doesn't do anything. Kind of looked like it was spazzing out a bit while plugging it in, but I think I've had that happen in a few different games. Let's see. And why can't I reset it? Oh, sweet. It works. So I can reset it. And oh, second player can reset it too. Okay, it's kind of like NES and Famicom. So now, I guess we can do an unboxing since no one else seems to be doing this yet. All right, so I guess that's a little punch-out piece for the hand cab over here. So, a little bonus in the box. Yeah, so this is the bonus in the box. So that's the PC Engine or TurboDuo adapter. It goes from full size DIN 8 to a mini DIN, and I don't need that. Let's see. This cord is kind of stiff. Maybe it's just because it's cold down here. So once again, it is an unfinished basement, so there's not really any heat or anything. So and we're in the middle of January. So all right. Let's see. Get this twist tie off. And my first impressions are that select and start don't stick out as much. As you can see, hopefully, should show on the camera. Yeah, you can see select and start, well, select and run protrude a little bit on the TurboGrafx 16, but a bit less on the Old Skool controller. So, you know, a lot of games use this as kind of a third action button. So when they made the 3-button controller, they kind of made a third plastic button that was switchable and functioning between select and run. And so this being shorter, doesn't stick out as far, makes it a little bit harder to use as a third action button, you know, as if it wasn't already harder by being spaced out more and not being plastic. But, you know, that was the problem for this one too. But so let's see how it works. I'll plug them both in. And I know that my TurboPad seems to work absolutely great for most games, but something's wrong with diagonals. And it's very tough to tell except in a game like Street Fighter. So, okay, because the Champion Edition, you can't pick the... Does not work. Okay, maybe I haven't fixed the tap. Fix it for the first player. All right, plug it in. Maybe do something. a 6-button pad, but I do not. So that's strange. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's the tap. We'll see by plugging in the original controller there. All right, no, the original controller works on player 2. But you notice I cannot do a Shoryuken or a fireball or a hurricane kick. All right, I gotta switch to kicks actually. I think for this side I can do the hurricane kick, yep. I'm making a very deliberate, yeah. Let me switch to the other. I guess I can't switch to the other side since you can't force them away from the edge. Oh well. As you saw, I could not do, you know, my uppercut or my fireball. So let's try with this one. It's still stuck crouched. That's strange. And I switched controller ports too. Let's try not hot swapping, because this could be a problem with hot swapping. There's something wrong here. I don't want to force it. Okay. So power off, power on. Got the Old Skool controller going into port 1. And it's going nuts. That's strange. Alright, I'm going to try plugging it straight into the system. Maybe it just does not like the tap. Alright, it works. Alright, so it's a stiff cord. Alright, so that all works, but I want to get into Versus, so I don't have to. Let's just try it. Alright, of course this game is not meant to be played with a 2-button controller. So, alright. Do a fireball, first try. Shoryuken, first try. So, yeah, apparently it works a heck of a lot better for rolling moves. Well, that was me trying to use the start button, so it worked every single attempt with the other buttons. But the start button seems to work well enough. Well, run, I keep calling it start. So yeah, they're shorter, but they still feel fine, they work fine. Not fine for this game, of course, but since you want 6 buttons. Alright, so can we not do the reset code in this game? Or I guess because these are action buttons, you would be accidentally resetting the game, so I guess they don't have, reset doesn't work the way it normally does. Alright, so I'm going to plug it into the first player port here, plug the original TurboPad into the second player port, plug this in, and let's see how it works. This might just be the Turbo EverDrive not supporting the multitap. So let's confirm that really quick. Oh, I had the wrong one plugged in the first player. Alright, so I only have the 5-player TurboTap and the original TurboPad plugged in. And it looks like it works. It isn't until I do the same thing with the Old Skool controller that it goes nuts. No? Yeah, it's going nuts. So start button doesn't work. Alright, so I still can't do 2 players. Let's confirm that again. Push start. Champion Edition. Alright, I'm gonna plug this in, see what happens. Oops, that did not sound right. I didn't even get it all the way in. I might still have a bad like trace or something on there. One of the pads could be ripped off, so even reflowing it didn't help. Let's go down here and see if wiggling it does anything. Nope. So yeah, I think my second player controller port is just permanently messed up. And may not be the controller's fault. So let's try just, yeah, it thinks it's a 6-button controller. I think that has something to do, yeah, because you know, that's the problem we were having with the original TurboPad until we fixed the port. And looks like it always thinks that this one is a 6-button controller. Let's see if it does that when there is no TurboTap involved. So, nope, reads it properly. So, it looks like it's controlling both players. That's odd. Like, let's see if it does that if I never had a TurboTap plugged in at all. That could be the problem we're having with this, is that the way the controller encoding works, it's responding to the points where normally only the second player is supposed to, I guess, feed back information to the system. And it's responding to both parts. All right, so this works. It doesn't think that there's a tap connected, and so I'm not going to be able to see if it still has that glitch over here, and it doesn't. And, so yeah, that could have just been a glitch from having switched off of the tap to a single controller that caused that, but it probably would have done it with the TurboPad as well. I cannot pause the game. I wanted to switch back to the TurboPad to see. Oh, my kicks! No wonder I can't do that. Dragon Punch. I'm just doing it to mess around, not because I'm trying to hit anyone. All right, so switch back to standard TurboPad, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just keep trying to do my uppercuts. Oops. Yeah. I actually asked my friend to do this with his controller the other night, and he wasn't able to do it a single time before the time ran out. Yeah, it looks like I can do rolls in this direction, but not the other direction. So I'm just going to keep trying to do uppercuts or fireballs. Oh, hey, we got one. And let's see, there should be a controller test, pad test in here. Yeah, I only have one of my stereo channels connected to this TV. Alright, it doesn't show diagonals, it just shows 2 arrows when you hold the diagonal. But so you can detect them both. But when I roll, it never shows them both being held at once. So it looks like it's just not very sensitive to diagonals. So if you very strongly press in between, you can get it to register, but just a standard roll pivot from the middle doesn't work. And speaking of which, this feels like, see how it clicks down in the middle? It still pivots in the middle. So it still has a pivot, but the pivot is not as tall as the pivot in the original, which does not click down in the middle. It only moves around to the sides. So despite that, it still is better at half circles and quarter circles than the original TurboPad. So not that very many Turbo games would require that, but let's see. Just to show that it works fine for other games. Oops, yeah, that's right, this is controller isn't even plugged in. All right. There we go. Let's pick something random. Not too random. Turbo works. Oops. I was too busy paying attention to these switches, so. Alright, so A button works here. Everything seems to work. I can move around. I do diagonals just fine. Let's see how diagonals work with the other pad. Yeah, I always feel too tight. Alright, back to the original TurboPad. Oops. Alright. Yeah, looks like I can do diagonals, so I don't know why Street Fighter has such a problem with it. Yeah. You can see that it does move in right angles much more readily than it does in a diagonal, so I'm guessing that some quirk about Street Fighter's play control makes it where it just doesn't register it as a half circle if it sees that. If it sees it press down before it sees it press, like if you're rolling from right to down, if it sees it press down before it registers right and down, it won't register it as right and down. And so it acts like you never made that half circle movement. And, all right, let's try some other stuff. Let's see how the controller cord length compares. All right, I think I already told you guys it's a bit more stiff. All right, looks like Old Skool is a little bit shorter, so about 2 controllers' heights shorter. So, all right, but of course with the Duo adapter or the PC Engine adapter, that adds more length than that to it, but you know, you wouldn't be using one of these with a TurboGrafx 16. So I guess for anyone who has the original console, this is a slightly shorter controller. And, but if you were getting it for a second or beyond, second, third, fourth, fifth player, then you'd have this extra length anyway. And unfortunately, from what I can tell, it doesn't work with a multi-tap. So works fine on its own, but as soon as you plug it into a multi-tap, it seems to think it's a 6-button controller. And unless that's something wrong with my tap, I don't think so. But yeah, we tried it alone in the first player controller port, and it didn't work right there either. So that doesn't explain it. Sorry, I'm trying to make excuses. So let's see here. At least if you need a controller to play single-player games, it seems to be perfect for that. It's not great for that, you know. And just if you need it as an economical way to go ahead and fully populate your 5-player multi-tap, it does not seem to be the way to do that. So, and yeah, it's just going nuts. And we've already established that an original pad works fine here. I just unplug Old Skool, plug in original TurboPad. Yeah, works great. So it's not TurboTap compatible. And I do wonder if it's compatible with the the 2-player taps. Not DuoTap, because DuoTap is 5 players for TurboDuo. So PC Engine end. I am interested to see if it would work with some of those Japanese only 2-player taps. Well, they actually have 2, 3, and 4-player taps. And maybe their logic is different. This one has some custom NEC chip in it. And wish I knew the logic to duplicate this with off-the-shelf parts, but you know, make a cheap multiplayer tap. But I only know how to make a 2-player tap, which, yeah, I guess spoilers, that was going to be one of the upcoming videos. A do-it-yourself 2-player tap for the TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine. And also, you know, some other controller options to use with that, since the whole idea is to find an economical way to play up to 5 players in the TurboGrafx without buying 5 original controllers and a tap. And unfortunately, I wish I could suggest, you know, 5 of these controllers and a tap, and if you wanted to do it a little bit cheaper, but that just isn't going to work unless somebody figures out why this doesn't work with the tap. And, but until then, I guess that's all I can recommend it for, is for single-player TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine titles. And not even single-player games through the tap. If you needed that to get a little bit of extra length, it's not going to work. So just keep that in mind. $30 isn't going to break the bank on these. You know, $30 for a used TurboPad would work as well. It's just, you know, we've shown that its D-pad definitely is not as good. It's better in some other ways. This run and select, sticking up a little bit more, and the slightly longer controller cord. But if you just wanted to have something new that you know is going to last a little bit longer because it's going to have fresh rubber, Old Skool Replica should work. And feels great. I guess buttons are responsive. I guess I need to give more of a thorough break-in before I can evaluate it on that front, like thoroughly. But I guess just first impressions are that it's more responsive, and especially on the D-pad, than the original controller is. So I just wish that the feel was better on things like select and run, and this whole D-pad clicking down like that. So other than that, though, I mean, I guess I can't really fault it for that though, too, since it does functionally work better. So maybe that was part of getting it to register diagonals better than the original TurboPad. So we'll see. I'll give you an update if I get one. So.